I'm so honored to be here. I had to be with you. For the past days, I've been in East Palestine, Ohio. Ohio. Been there with Americans fighting for justice. One of the things that folks across this road will try to fool you, and they will say that we are a country that is black or white, brown or red, straight or gay, theist or atheist, divided. But we are not. We are Americans fighting for justice and freedom. And so when the call for me to go to East Palestine with the Hip Hop Caucus to support them, a primarily white community, a number of black folks in the hip hop community went there. And I've never been hugged actually by so many white people in the past week in East Palestine, Ohio, which is lovely. But I had to be here with you because a lot of those folks who are in East Palestine, Ohio, while they're dealing with the effects of the petrochemical spill, with the vinyl chloride, with the idea of getting cancer and asthma and all kinds of diseases, the reality is this. They are still, many of them, dealing with student debt. So imagine the reality of dealing with a train derailment, dealing with that catastrophe, but then you're still getting calls and worrying about the debt you took out 20 years ago. That is not what it means for us to be Americans. What it means for us is to stand up right now, to come together and cancel student debt right now. And I want to say this because one thing that's so important is that I understand there's a lot of politicians. I just saw one here, Rashida from Michigan, and I think I saw my dear sister Ayana from Massachusetts. There are some good folks who are over there fighting. But the reality is this. I'm not a politician. And I see a lot of folks who went to some HBCU. I went to HBCU. Who went to an HBCU. And if anybody understands student debt, it's folks who went to an HBCU. When you had to get in line, just to get a loan, and then when you finally graduate, then you got to deal with the student debt after going to college. So what I understand here is that I'm not a politician, but what I understand is that either you shape policy or policy shapes you. And what I understand is this: we are sick and tired of folks who are supposed to be with us, supposed to be guiding us. So we call on this president that young people elected and young folks put in office to cancel the debt and cancel the debt right now. This is no game today. And so as I close on the standpoint of two things. One, this year marks the 50th anniversary of hip-hop. Give it up for hip-hop, y'all. And it also is the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. And in that march for jobs and freedom, Dr. King talked about that promissory note. And every time people come to cash that check, it comes back bounced, insufficient funds. But today we come to the Supreme Court, and we are saying it's time to cash the check. On the words of Rihanna, you better show me. Come on, somebody. So I say this. We are not sitting here to say, free at last. Just free at last. We are standing here today, unified, black, white, brown, red, male, female, all of us, from Ivy Leagues to the great HBCUs from all across this country. We are standing here because we are saying it's time to be student debt free at last. Student debt free at last. Thank God Almighty when we shall be student debt free at last. All power to the people. 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 God bless you.
Let's give it up, Reverend Yearwood! Woo! Oh my gosh. Y'all, so our next speaker is a truth teller. She's a table shaker who centers the most impacted in all of her policy making. She has been a leading voice in the fight on debt cancellation in Congress and was a central figure in ensuring that President Biden fulfilled his promise to cancel student debt in response to the pandemic. Y'all, it's my privilege and honor to introduce our Congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley. Let's give it up.
All right, well, good morning, movement family. And we truly are one human family, one movement who recognizes that our freedoms and our destinies are tied. I woke up this morning with a lot on my mind. I woke up thinking about the grandmother who held on shoulders as she whispered her feeing student loans until she died. 76 years old and owes more than she took out. Living on a fixed income, benefits garnished because of student debt she still owes. I woke up this morning with a lot on my mind, thinking about the teacher who left the profession they love because they couldn't make those student loan payments and manage child care costs for their son. I woke up this morning with a lot on my mind, thinking about the couple that bought their first home together because the payment pause gave them some financial breathing room for the very first time in their lives. I woke up this morning with a lot on my mind, thinking about my own mother and the history of Black Americans locked out of every major federal relief program, from the Homestead Act to the GI Bill, targeted by redlining, denied the ability to build generational wealth because of policy violence, and so we borrow and default at higher rates. I woke up this morning, family, with a lot on my mind. But when we start with the people, the policy is clear. The people demand and deserve student debt cancellation. Student debt cancellation will change and save lives. That is why President Biden took action. He heeded the calls of all those gathered here today. He was responsive to the needs of this movement, mobilizing on behalf of the needs of the people. Burdened by unjust and egregious student loan debt. With the stroke of a pen and clear legal authority, he responded. He canceled student debt. But and spiteful Republican officials, disconnected from the hardship of everyday folks who are burdened by this debt, those Republican officials and corporate interests of the nation just leave well enough alone. They saw the transformative power of folks from every walk of life, unburdened by student debt, and instead, they chose obstruction. Well, I'm firmly on the side of the people, and I fundamentally believe and was taught by my activist mother, may she rest in peace and power, that the power of the people is always greater. Greater than the people in power. Greater than special interests. Greater than a broken Supreme Court. Now, movement family, we built a relationship on honesty, so I'm going to keep it 100. The court knows President Biden has the legal authority to cancel student debt. And they have a clear and simple choice here. Uphold the law, and we can call it a day. But this court has let us down before, overturning and obstructing the will of the people. This court has been weaponized. This court has torn away our fundamental rights. But by hell or high water, we are going to get you the student debt cancellation that President Biden promised. Like millions of black borrowers denied the ability to build generational wealth, I know the burden of student loan debt. I know what it is to land in default when your family is tripped up on economic hard times. And I want to talk about the shame that many borrowers carry. I'm beyond grateful to each of you who shared your story to make the case for national student debt cancellation. But let me be clear, the shame was never yours to carry. The only shame is that this nation has burdened families with this crushing debt, but we changed that. With the flick of a pen, President Biden took decisive and historic action, and 43 million people stand to benefit from this relief. I won't say forgiveness because the shame is not yours, and you don't need to be forgiven anything. 43 million borrowers stand to benefit from this relief, and 1 in 4 black borrowers to have their debt zeroed out. He used the clear authority that Congress gave him. He moved to change and save lives. So we're not letting up. We will not stand. We will stand behind the president's legal authority. We will stand up against any bad actors that try to mislead a single borrower out of the relief you demand and deserve. This is the type of transformative policy that sends ripples forward for generations. We will get the people the relief they demand and deserve. Come hell or high water, we will cancel student debt.
Let's give a round of applause for Representative Presley, y'all. All right, so as a daughter of proud union members, it is such a great privilege to introduce our next speaker. We've got Randy Weingarten, President of the American Federation of Teachers. For over a decade, Randy has led the charge to ensure that teachers and nurses can get out from under crushing weight of student debt. She fought back against Betsy DeVos's brutal attack on public service loan forgiveness, and Randy won and helped over 300,000 teachers and nurses receive $24 billion in student debt relief. But she hasn't stopped there. She continues this fight for all 44 million Americans still struggling under the weight of this debt and just struggling to make ends meet. Without further ado, let's give it up for Becky Weingarten.
Are you ready to cancel student debt? Oh no, the judges can't hear you, particularly the judge that actually had student debt. Are you ready to cancel student debt? Do we need the Supreme Court to do the right thing? Do we need the Supreme Court to do the legal thing? So look, you know, I'm a school teacher, and I'm also a lawyer. But normally what happens is that when the government has the authority to get something done, like the Secretary of Education has the authority under the Higher Education blah, 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 blah law, when they have the authority to get something done, it doesn't get here. It never gets here. Because what happens is the lower court say, here's the law, here's the authority, let's get it done. So this is my question for all of us. And I think Representative Presley said it as well. We watched what the cases were last year. So we're here outside, but we are wondering, is the Supreme Court going to follow the law, or is the Supreme Court going to follow corporate interests? And I know we're wondering that. And what I'm asking you to do, regardless of what happens today, is keep hope alive. We know, and we say, remember I said I'm a school teacher, we've said to young adults, and there are many here, I love all these caps, we've said to young adults over and over and over again, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. How many of us have heard that? That's all? How many of us have that? How many of us have gone to college? But part of this bargain is this. If we go to college, we need to actually make sure it's affordable. That it doesn't take everything and everything that our families can do. And that is what this machinery. We go to college, we take out student loans that we're supposed to be able to deal and thrive and pay our student loans back in an affordable way. But what is that they have become unaffordable. They become affordable. If not people, and when people mistake or pay the exact amount, all of a sudden one is foreclosure and one is in all sorts of other, and they become even more unaffordable. And so that is what President Biden said we are going to deal with that. As we deal with the epidemic, we're going to deal with that. We're not going to start without actually making a down payment of it. And the Secretary of Education had the right to do it. And this is what pisses me off. Joy understood that spouses are hurting. And we helped, didn't go to the Supreme Court to challenge it. They hurting. And we helped them. And it didn't go to the Supreme Court to challenge it. All of a sudden, when it's about our students, they challenge it. Corporations challenge it. The student loan lenders. That is not right. That is not fair. That is what we're writing as well when we say cancel student debt. It is about the people. It's about the people's future, and it is about all of your futures. So that's why I started and said, whatever they do, regardless of what they do, we need to fight up. That is how we make with the students of America. So, lots of people have talked to us of what it means. And there are two members who are with me, Dr. Leslie Eaton and Charles, who are a married couple who took to work as public university professors in Ireland. They also took on debt through the Parent Plus loans to send kids to college. In welcoming Dr. Eaton and Doc Collins.
I'm Dr. Collins. This is Dr. Eaton. First of all, I want to thank the organizers of this rally for inviting us to tell our story. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go first, and then Leslie will correct me. I'm a product of the American dream. In my 30s, as a college dropout, I realized my life wasn't going anywhere, so I decided to go to college. And I eventually met Leslie there, who was doing the same thing. With the help of student loans, we were both able to finish our undergraduate and graduate degrees and become professors. And then we wanted to start our career. We were lucky to get a job at a public in central New York. My students aren't rich, muscle class, and working class families. Their families borrow money so they can pursue social workers, teachers, counselors, and they work hard. And the college who are teaching those kids are in the same we were in terms of student debt, trying to figure out how to pay their own loans off. I paid for years of my loans, and the balances never seemed to go down. I really tickled when they announced the public. I didn't qualify. None of my payments were accounted because I was put in the wrong plan. And the right plan would have doubled my payments, and frankly, we couldn't afford it. And then my kids grew up and were ready for college and would start borrowing money again for their loans. And so we're getting terrified about our retirement. Last year, under the Public Service Waiver Program, I was able to get my loans paid off, and frankly, my Parent Plus loans of my kids. I'm blessed, and I think they figured I'd have paid on it twice as long as the 10-year program that was implied. I'm here to speak for all the people, all my students, and all my colleagues and their parents who they were promised something. As several speakers have said, they were promised if they went to college and that they worked hard, they could pursue their dreams. But it went decades of crippling debt. That's a broken promise. So I'm going to speak out for student debt relief, and let's hear that promise is.
Thank you to the organizers of this event, and I'm so glad to see so many and so double AP hats on. We're members of the Youth and College Division at our college, and I'm thrilled to see you here. I returned having faith that education would open doors for me and my family to a better life. And the American dream is a fierce motivator. You can study for exams while changing diapers. You can rehearse presentations while commuting, and you can complete readings between innings at Little League games. I felt guilty every time I left my son at the daycare center, and he cried as I walked out there. And I felt guilty every time I missed class to stay at home with the sick kid. But I pressed on, and I became an expert juggler of all things, space and time. I ended up graduating Phi Beta Kappa, ultimately earned a degree in social psychology from the University of California. Thank you. I could not have attended college without childcare. Regardless of the fact that our student loan system does not recognize childcare as a cost of attending college, and it might be for some of you, because 1 in 5 today, 1 in 5 college students are parents also, just like I was. Financial pressure during that time was tremendous, but student loans were the pay for that child care, and I'll be forever grateful. Allow me to add, though, that center at that time, which was many years ago, had a 1 to 2 year long waiting list. Time that there are parents who go to college to make a better life for their kids as well. I now understand that there was huge unmet need there, and I'm privileged to talk to many students who are also parents and entered college in a non-traditional as well. On Friday, I spoke with Jordan, a college student that commutes 30 miles each way from Syracuse to come to our college in New York weather to attend classes. Student loans too, because her 9-year-old will go to college not long after she graduates. Our experience was marked by catastrophic economic downturns. Are many of you and your brothers and sisters. My son Ryan was a second-year undergraduate student during the 2000 financial crisis. That's when the state of New York furloughed professors' salaries to cover the expenses that the state needed to fulfill. My son Jeremy was an undergraduate during the COVID-19 economic crisis. For borrowers, these crises are impossible to overstate. As we consider today how taxpayer money is, let's remember that when the danger of a storm passes, the federal government helps families to recover and rebuild. Student loan cancellation is no different. Help families recover and rebuild after the pandemic. Borrowers from falling back into economic distress. This is needed, it is necessary, and it is equitable, and it is just. Thank you.
All right, y'all, let's get things and Dr. Eaton and Randy Weingarten.